Behavioral pathways is a natural and progressive behavioral pattern. It stacks one building block on top of another. My name is Marcel Elvers and I'm the author of We Are the Same, It's the Details That Differ. It's an overview of behavioral style, motivation and predictability. I also authored Relationship Dynamics, which is an overview of perspective, interaction and misunderstanding. Personality is nothing else than a repetitive response to our internal dialogue. How we think and feel determines what we do. And we repeat what we know best. The core of a type 1 is autonomy seeking. They need to be self-reliant and they provide their personal standards, their own rules. They typically have issues relating to others and anger. They can be highly reactive, instinctive gut reactions. They are superego oriented and they weigh morals and values of society as a whole. They are dedicated to rules and reliable to stick with them. They present themselves in social settings as logical and methodical. The upbringing of a type 1 was typically strict, harsh, maybe even punitive, but it was always filled with criticism. So they grew frustrated with the guidance received and they disagreed with it and they set their own rules. They learned to believe that nothing was ever good enough and therefore I am not good enough. They learned to strive to be better and even to be perfect. Therefore, the core of a type 1 is providing personal standards to themselves as well as others. They grow to be idealistic. Now, when you're too idealistic, you become rigid in your perspective. And when you enforce your personal standards with emphatic certainty, then you lose track of gray areas, the in-betweens. The vice of a type 1 is wrath. Explosive anger outbursts, especially when others are not trying as hard as they do. However, most often that anger is aimed at themselves. The ego defense mechanism of a type 1 is reaction formation, or replacing an undesirable response with the opposite. For instance, being extra nice to someone you dislike. Typical type 1s are Bill O'Reilly, Margaret Thatcher, Hillary Clinton, George Zimmerman, Anthony Weiner, and Nelson Mandela. Typically, the type 1 lives what they learned, and they often become even more strict and rigid than they received in their own upbringing. Here is another type 1, Ann Coulter. I think we ought to nuke North Korea. Boom! It will be fun. You see, type 1s see themselves as prudent, objective and reasonable. Others, however, see orderly, rigid, critical, contradictory and punitive. There are 9 core perspectives. Learn to understand the perspectives of others and then you can influence with integrity. Marcel Elvers is available for speaking engagements, consultations and online and on-site training. He can be reached at marcel.elvers@gmail.com.